As I said at the opening ceremonies for this event, the ribbon cutting, this project has been about building relationships. It truly has. Getting to know people that maybe we didn't know before. And it's been incredible as the building has been open and the space is being used. Those relationships continue to develop. They continue to happen, and we are so appreciative of that, and appreciative to all the volunteers and the people that have made this project possible. We would like to, highlight a few folks that are in the room, talk about them just briefly. In particular, we'd like to thank the communities that make up Steele County and in this area. We're very appreciative to have Lois Nelson with us, the mayor of Medford. Appreciative to have Tom Kuntz, the mayor of Owatonna. And I don't think H. Peterson is here from Blooming Prairie. I don't think I saw him come in. But this truly is a county project, and it's nice to have all of them here together, working together on projects like this. We're appreciative of that. If I can have all of the township officials, I don't have your names listed, but maybe if you could, well, first of all, let's give the mayors a round of applause. If I can have all of the township officials stand for just a minute, and we can give recognition to them. So I'll give you just a second to stand, be recognized. I know there's some of you, some are, there you go, we got one at least. How about a round of applause for them as well. I know that I saw a few county commissioners in the room. Are any in here? If you could stand for just a moment. And it truly has been a project, and we've certainly appreciated them and building a relationship. There's been a lot of people that have made this project possible. And it's a lot of hours and time and effort and volunteer work have went into it. And Jerry Ganfield is going to give us just a quick snapshot of how we got where we are today. Some folks are newer to the project here, some maybe don't know a little bit of the history, so we'd be remiss as a historical society if we didn't share a little bit of the history, retelling the story so next generations will know about it. So with that, Jerry Ganfield.
Thank you, Blake. It is about relationships, and we're standing here in 2014 and going back to where did this idea begin. In my mind, it began in 1999 when the board was gathered and said we really need to look at our bylaws and see what we are all about. So we did a review, and nowhere in the bylaws did it say we operate a pioneer village. It was always the Steele County Historical Society that preserved the history of Steele County. And that mission statement in those bylaws in 1999 went for 4 pages. And we decided to clean that up a little bit and honed it down to 1 sentence of 36 words. Now today we just revised that mission, and it's now to 1 phrase of 8 words. But it was all to get to the point of what do we do and how do we do it. So we looked at it and we said we really cannot keep adding a building for every decade in the village. We don't have that much ground, and it's exhausting. We now have 18 structures over there, 5 of them added in the last 5 years, or since 1998, I should say, 15 years. So we said we really need a venue to put out our history that is not a pioneer village. And so that's when we drafted a dream of having this history center. And I know some of our board members at that time thought we were absolutely crazy because we had no money at that time. Our budget in 1999 was $30,000 for the year. And we got 1/3 of that from the combination of the county and the city. So we were looking for contributions from members, from memorials, and that's how we were sponsored. And during that time, we had 2 estates or more given to us. The 2 that stand out to me, we got a large amount from Ed Skalitsky, and we'd like to put that in a legacy fund, but it went to shingle the 2 cabins. So every time I see the 2 cabins, I think of Ed. And then we also had Allegra Krause, some of you may remember. She was one of our steadfast tour guides who generally dressed in period costume to lead the tours, and she gave them out. And again, that went for operation of the village. And we hope, and we knew looking ahead that we had a trust set aside by Glenn Degner. At some point in time, we would receive the interest from that trust, but until his wife was taken care of, the village, the Historical Society would not receive it. But we knew that would be coming someday, which gave us hope for this vision. And then when that Glenn Degner Trust came about to help us with operation, we could look to see, okay, how do we make this vision concrete? And of course, some of you remember the 2004 centennial of our 150th anniversary of Owatonna. They wanted some ideas for what we could build as a monument to that 150 years. And so we entered that as one of the 10 items that could be considered. It was rather overwhelming. Little did we know how overwhelming it would be. And they chose the band shell downtown, which is a beautiful recognition of 150 years. But in our discussion with the committee, which included Vern White, we said we need to have this and spend more time to develop it. So that's what we did, and we formed a committee. We had many subcommittees that looked at a building, where it might be put, what it might look like, what the gift shop might be, what the archival area was needed, how much storage do we need, how big square footage, what kind of functions will we have in the building, an exhibit hall. And we got together and we had our meetings in the Seco Church, which was the largest room we could have for a large committee like that. And we said, well, where can we put it? We looked at several places actually, and one night after dark, someone said, well, let's take a look at Fairgrounds Park. For some years we've been told that might be an option. So I remember very vividly that John Gross and Lloyd Kaplan and I came out here in the dark. The only street light was the light that we had to measure how big a space there was in this park and would this be a spot. And we pursued that with the county, and we received blessings on that after some discussion of some months. And so then we said, well, how big is this building going to be? $3.3 million. And you don't realize how much that is until you say, golly, we still have 2.9 million to go. So we felt that with the Degner Trust we would go forward, and we cannot thank you enough. 15 years later, now that can be a long time in some people's lives. It seems like forever, and yet 15 years. We started raising funds in 2005, and with the seed money, if you will, from Stevens and Sis Lang, we pursued it from the pictures you see here to the building today. And speaking on behalf of many of our members who are no longer with us, who sat in on those first meetings, we cannot thank you enough, because this is your building that you built with private funds. Thanks.
Thank you, Jerry. It truly was a team effort. But at the head of that team for us is a wonderful person that we've all come to know and love, and I'm assuming there she is. She blended into the crowd, you can't hide from me. Let's give a warm welcome and introduction to Laura Ressler, our director.
Wow, thank you. Thanks for all you have done to get us to this point today. I see Les is here. We want to recognize the Owatonna City Council as well, so let's give them a hand. For that, I'd also like to recognize past board members that were on the journey with us. If any of you are in the room, and present board members, if you can kind of come in, give a wave. I see you guys, come on. Stand up and let's give these guys truly, they are volunteers extraordinaire and spend spent countless hours. It's a labor of love for everybody in this room, and especially for those folks. So guys, thank you for all you've done to help us along the way. And our staff, Dodie, Shar, Dan is wandering with a camera. And out there. We have a small staff, but they really work very, very hard to bring Steele County history to one and all, and I really want to thank them for all that they do, because they're a great team, and I'm very, very honored to have them to work with. So let's give them a round of applause. And then those of you that helped fundraise, lots of folks helped with that. Ken and Mike co-chaired the fundraising committee. I know there were some great triumphs and some sleepless nights that all kind of went with the territory, but here we are. So a big thank you to those as well. And I'm going to turn this back to Mike, and we'll see how big a fire. Whoop. I don't know how to operate anything. We'll see how big a fire we can make. Thank you.
Thank you. As Jerry alluded to, as in his history and telling the story, this project was largely in part possible because of the Dagner Trust, which gave us sustainable income. But to be honest, there's a whole nother story to this too. I wasn't a part of the meeting, but I've heard it told many a time, where they were meeting in the Saco Church, and Chad had requested to come and talk to the committee that was starting to brainstorm on this project. And many of them wondered, what might this be? What might be happening? What does he want to meet with us for, you know? And thinking, you know, a few $100,000 or something, or maybe at least some seed money. But after the shock and many tears with the announcement that Stevens and Sis Lang were very committed, dedicated to this community, truly wonderful people, stepped forward with a matching grant of $1 million, truly kicked this project forward in many fronts. So with that, I've asked Chad to come forward and share just a little about his history, connection with the project, and his family's take on it. So please help give a warm welcome to Chad.
Just 2 days shy of 2 years from the ribbon cutting. That was on April 26th of 2012. And think of everything that's happened in just those 2 years. And what a wonderful project this was meant to be, and will be well into the future. Now, it's a privilege to represent my parents, Steve and Sis Lang, at this mortgage burning. And as I said at the ribbon cutting, our family's roots go back a long ways. My mother's grandfather arrived in Owatonna in 1870 and was a judge and was in the legislature and loved Owatonna. My dad's family came much later in 1911, but my dad just passed short of his 101st birthday in 2012, and think of it, he was almost 2/3 as old as the city of Owatonna. And some of the criteria, you know, when a family has discussions on what to do with funds that we're lucky enough to have, there's certain criteria that have to be met. You just don't throw it at the wall and hope that, you know, maybe this is a good project. So when we looked at it, we had 5 criteria that had to be met for us to put forth the kind of gift that we did. And I'm going to go through those again, and you think about your own family and the way you choose to use funds that you may have available. Number one, the project should be a major undertaking that could benefit the rural community as well as the city. In other words, that was number one. Steele County has been good to the Langs, growing the crops that we needed to process at the canning company. So that was a criteria. We wanted something that would benefit the whole county. Number two, the project should be bricks and mortar. We wanted it to be long lasting. And this will be here, I'm sure, for many, many generations and beyond. The project should be managed by an outstanding, active board. And this is so important. I think we've all seen projects that do not come to fruition because the board or the executive director or whatever just doesn't have the wherewithal to move it forward. And this board, and especially Laura, had proven already that they were capable of doing that. And beyond that, we can see that today it's beyond our, well, wildest expectations. That it's just, when I drive by, there's not one day that there isn't some kind of meeting, some kind of event here that's occurring. And it's such wide-ranging scope. There's no static displays here, they're moving, there's always something new here to incite interest. Number four, the project should stimulate the citizenry to contribute so that the funds donated by parents would be matched. Well, again, it's a leap of faith. When you do this kind of thing and you don't know, and I'm sure that the board members shared this, we've got the seed money, but then what will happen after that? Well, needless to say, the vision that the fundraising committee and the board put forward inspired a great number of people to contribute very nice sums to build this building. So that was a consideration. And lastly, it should be a lasting legacy. And that we know we've got. After 2 years, as I say, it's just the programs that they have here. At your table, you saw that the Harvest of History coming up in October. And then we've got the Holocaust Survivor meeting. My gosh. I mean, what a diverse listing of programs that we as a community and as county residents have an opportunity to take part in. In the last 2 years, if there's not been a program here that hasn't interested or touched somebody, I can't believe it, because they've covered the waterfront. History is such a wide-ranging thing that it allows many venues to be explored. And they haven't hesitated. They're very flexible as far as getting these programs in. As a board, they continue to work so hard, so hard. It's just an impressive group of people. And as I say, people say, well, where is the History Center? Oh, I said, just look by the water tower. Oh, that's the building. I said, you ought to go in sometime. And they said, well, we always see a lot of cars there, and we kind of wonder what's going on. Well, I said, go in and find out. So, as I say, this is something that the Lang family will always be a cherished part of our legacy, and we're glad to be a part of it. So I thank you so much.
Thank you, Chad. And thank you to the many donors that helped to make this project possible. I mean, as I look out in the room and see many of you sitting here, the Zambonis, we have Viricon, we have the Owatonna Foundation, we have the Wests, as well as, I think we're well in excess of 700, probably close to 800 individual donors that stepped up to make a difference. I would encourage you to take some time later this evening to look at the donor wall that's out in the atrium and really look at those names, look at the history, look at where they come from. It was a wide range of people that stepped up and made this possible. As we start to look forward and to the forward of the Historical Society, Chad touched on some of the projects and things that we have coming. One of our challenges is to have continued sustainability as we move forward. We've talked about the Degner Trust a number of times, that truly has given us some stability to be able to make some decisions and to take some risks. But we would like to take that a step further, and we actually have started our own legacy fund whereby we will be putting funds into it. There's a brochure on your table. I encourage you to grab one when you get a chance that talks about that. We're putting the principal into the fund, and we're only going to be utilizing the interest. It's a tornado drill, so don't panic. We don't need to run. So we're good. Everything's safe. But we do want to let you know that with that, what we're doing is trying to build stability. We truly want to be in a position whereby we can add an additional program director that can really work on the programming. We offer a lot of programming. It's all done volunteer-based right now, and that's fine. But as we look to the future, it'd be nice to have somebody be able to help champion that. Our staff is definitely stretched beyond where a staff should be stretched. We're very appreciative of them. We're also appreciative of sirens, right? I was going to have a little bit of fun. So we encourage you to take a look at that. I'm very proud to announce our very first annual giver to the Legacy Fund was Harley Mankey, and they joined that when they renewed their membership. So we're very appreciative to him and their family for being the first to champion and get us started there. And a number of you have already stepped up, and we're appreciative of that. So that will have a long-term legacy as we go forward. So we appreciate that. The other favor that I have to ask of you, because we're going to delay just a minute before we go outside, because we don't want to fight with the sirens. At the front desk out front, you don't have this at your tables, but we have a membership brochure. All of you are very familiar, very connected with this facility and this place and the offerings and the opportunities. If you would grab one of these and hand it to a friend, hand it to somebody that isn't a part of the society, and say, have you ever thought about this? There's some really great benefits, whether it's the quarterly newsletter that's informational, the programming, the exhibits, all free to come and be a part of, as well as there's the Time Traveler program, which actually gets you into, is it hundreds? Hundreds of locations across the country for free or reduced admission, including our very own State Historical Society. So by having membership, you actually, I think, get it free up there. So we encourage you to take advantage of that and look at that. So with that, while the siren is slowly fading, hopefully, I'll explain what's going to happen. We're actually going to be burning the mortgage outside. You'll see there's a black fire ring out there. We're very honored to have Metal Services of Blooming Prairie actually made that for us, and we'll be burning the mortgage in that. And then all of the flowers that are on the tables here will go in it afterwards, and we'll be putting it out in front of the building, and it will be a flower planter for us. So we'll know for many years to come. It'll remind us of the burning of the mortgage here. So the plan at this point, or shortly here, hopefully the siren doesn't go too long, we will all be progressing out onto the patio for those of you that are willing to brave the